Hi, I'm Guy Powell, and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing. If you haven't already done so, please visit ProRelevant.com and sign up for all of these episodes and podcasts. I am the author of the newly released book, The Post-COVID Marketing Machine, Prepare Your Team to Win. And you can find out more information on this at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today, we're speaking with Sharon Goldmacher. Sharon is a seasoned digital marketer and public relations expert with 35 years of experience in solving marketing challenges for a range of clients in a range of industries, including real estate, technology, CIDs, professional services. You name it, she's done it. And her company, also C21, has many, many accolades. And I'm not going to list them all, but there's a whole paragraph full of those. So, really, she's definitely at the top of her game. And that also is not only in business, but in golf. So, that's one of her favorite things to do is be out on the golf course or cycling or walking her dogs here in Atlanta. So, welcome, Sharon.
Hi, Guy. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited to be here.
You're very welcome. It's so good to have you. So tell us how you got started in marketing. What's your backstory on marketing?
My backstory is probably not unlike many, but I went to college at Tulane University, but I am a Sophie Newcomb grad from Tulane University, and I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I studied communications and political science. I thought I was going to be a hot shot attorney, and I decided I didn't want to go to school anymore after double majoring. And I almost got a minor. I was a dancer in college, jazz and modern and ballet. So I was exhausted. Um, so I had worked for WDSU, which was the NBC affiliate in New Orleans. And then I thought I might be a reporter, but I didn't want to move to some small town USA to build my reel. And so I ended up moving to Atlanta. I did some on air pitching work for the PBS station here. And in doing that, I met someone who said, "You'd be great in PR." And I'm like, "Awesome. What is that?" So I had to do a little informational interviewing and research, and I met some great people along the way and ended up getting my first job, which was really a marketing and public relations role at a very small agency. And I loved it. So I was hooked at that point.
Interesting. It's funny because I was engineering and now I'm in marketing, and how we got there from where we started in college. It's pretty amazing. So now you're the founder and president of C21, which is a marketing and PR agency. Tell us a little bit about that.
Our official name is Communications 21. Our tag is Communications for the 21st Century. We are actually celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. So I worked for two other agencies, loved what I did. I'm not great with authority. So I struck out on my own after about 6 years. And so when I was 28, I started Communications 21, but that is a mouthful. So we go by C21 just because it's easier for people to say and to find us. So, but we started out as a marketing, PR, and design firm. And around 2000, I guess, we were one of the first agencies in Atlanta to launch email marketing in-house. So we've been doing it for 22 years. And as a result, we just kept adding more digital services because we saw that that really was going to be the wave of the future. And now we do video as well. So all the digital, services, you definitely have more expertise in certain areas than we do, but we provide at least our clients with a holistic approach to marketing. And if they want to do traditional, we can do it, but we really do push the digital because that's where everybody lives right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no question that as the complexity, or the different offerings and the complexity around them in terms of all the different types of digital, certainly leads to a lot of challenges for agencies and their clients. So what do you see today as the biggest challenges that agencies and their clients are facing?
Education is always key. So making sure that we're cutting edge and staying in front of. It's always tough to get a question from a client when you're like, I haven't heard that. So you want to make sure that you're definitely in front of what's happening. I think most of our clients understand the importance of digital marketing, but they really don't know the wheres and hows, and they kind of feel like it's all magic behind the curtain, like Wizard of Oz. So some of it is explaining, but to a point where they can understand, but they don't necessarily really want to execute or get involved. So we focus on metrics because I think being able to measure what we can do, and I use that as a bit of a tagline. Like, if we can't measure it, we probably are not going to recommend it as a tactic, because most everything in the digital world is so measurable. And if you're not measuring, then I think you're doing your client a little bit of a disservice. But I will say, and I think I may have said this to you previously, that there's a lot of shiny new toys out there, and the metaverse is one of them. And I feel like people are jumping on the bandwagon and they don't necessarily know what the impact is or how to make the most of it. And so, again, going back to education, going back to your basic foundational principles, is if your audience is going to be in the metaverse, then yeah, we should absolutely consider what the strategy would be to get in there and to connect. But if your audience is never going to be in the metaverse, then it's probably not something that you need to spend your dollars on.
Yeah, and there's been some interesting case studies with the metaverse, and I will admit I'm just learning about it now, and also trying to be a little bit more informed than our clients, so that at least if they ask me a question, I can say I know how to spell metaverse. And so there's
Right.
there's definitely a lot going on. And so, any interesting case studies that you've seen, or any interesting examples that really made a lot of sense for marketers?
In terms of just information out there, I mean, I think, I find it fascinating because we do a lot of real estate. And so in terms of metaverse things that I'm reading about, the real estate industry was one of the first to really dive in. I would say fashion, Gucci and Versace and some of the luxury brands who have the kind of money that can, go all out and just play. But real estate got in there so they could kind of stake their claims on space in the metaverse. But I will say, I've read some stories where I don't know if you've heard about Decentraland, but there is a space that they are subdividing and selling leases for and plots for. And people are paying real money. And they said, that it's a finite amount of space. And I'm like, it's digital. How is it finite? You can just build more space. Like, that didn't make a ton of sense to me. But, I think as time goes on, we're going to see more and more applications, and things that may not make sense right now, a year from now, will have better applications and make a lot more sense. I have similar questions around NFTs. And there seems to be a target market right now for NFTs. And I'm just going to say it, but it tends to be men who want to see a replay of a basketball shot over and over and over and over and over again. And having worked to support the NCAA men's Final Four tournament, I understand the passion around sports, and specifically college basketball and college football. But this is not really how women's brains work. I'm just going to say.
Well, so we're going to leave the gender specific stuff aside here a minute. But
I'm a female founder with all female team, so I tend to be a little bit female focused and centric.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I agree with you. I haven't yet figured out how NFTs can make money, but I'm sure that there will be something, and all of a sudden something will take off. And it's interesting. There was a lot of hype about NFTs, and then it kind of went away, and then now it might be starting to come back. But
Yeah.
it's also kind of how QR codes work. When QR codes came out, man, there was so much desire for them, and then it never really got anywhere. And then all of a sudden, I think it was really Apple, and I guess Google did it too, as they combined and integrated the QR code reader right into the camera.
Right.
And all of a sudden, and then with COVID, all of a
Right.
sudden QR codes are back. And so maybe something like that has to happen with NFTs and then the metaverse.
It's
So,
very possible, right? I
so
mean, COVID was a huge impact on QR codes and contactless payments and all that. So I agree. Sometimes it's environment driven.
yeah, yeah. So help educate us. What would you call the difference between the term metaverse, augmented reality, and virtual reality? And then how you see that being possibly applied by different industries and what have you.
Yeah, I again, I'm not an expert, and this is not something we do every day, but we have through a group. I know a gentleman who's building virtual reality experience boxes. So you walk in with your headset and you can have any kind of experience. It could be going on safari, it could be being on the moon, it could be something medical that you're learning about. And so you get education, you can virtually touch and feel something and interact with it as if it's real. And that's virtual reality. Augmented reality may be, we had, for example, used a kind of a pop-up video service, I guess is the best way to describe it, that you would scan any kind of flat graphic that was programmed in the back end, and you would have a video pop up right over that flat graphic. So if I had a brochure and I just took my phone and scanned it, all of a sudden there'd be a video right on my phone, and you'd still see kind of behind the video the graphic or brochure, and that was just augmenting what you would already see. So that's augmented reality. The metaverse to me is just a whole world where you interact virtually, and you're going into rooms or games, or you're at a concert with somebody across the world, and you just text your friend and say, hey, I'm in this room, come watch Earth, Wind, and Fire with me. Obviously, showing my age, super old, but my favorite band. And, that kind of virtual living, I can understand, like, I have friends all over. I would love to see them more often. And that kind of, I could see could be cool, but I like human interaction. I like, this Zoom stuff is fine, but I like in person. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a good differentiation. One of our clients is Museum of the Bible, and they had an exhibit where they had a projector over a book, and then as you turned the pages in the book, the projector would then change and recognize what page you were on, and then it would present a video, and then other stuff with it, and it was pretty fascinating, and it was an interesting case as to how you could maybe use that. I don't know if that would be augmented reality or virtual reality. I guess it's probably more augmented, but
mm-hmm.
cases like that I think are definitely coming up. And you mentioned education as well. I think education, there's no question that when you can kind of almost feel like you're in there, that in that environment, that you can really learn and see different things that you otherwise wouldn't see just by reading a book.
There was actually a news story I think it was this past weekend or week. It might have been just a couple of days ago, but it was talking about the progression of virtual reality, and that medical students, even high schoolers who have a kind of STEM track are seeing a virtual skeleton that they can, with headsets, can see where the liver is or see how things function, and the compression of time that may happen in terms of, you know, someone going through school and their residency and all this because they get to do things virtually and not wait for a patient or cadaver, will churn out, you know, more medical professionals in a faster amount of time, which I think is incredibly beneficial. However, I do still think the human connection and bedside manner, and those are things you can't necessarily get virtually. So there has to be some combination, I think, for true success.
Yeah, interesting. And I like your example of medical for the metaverse to be able to actually see and feel and touch. And I think you're right. You would learn the details of that. And I would imagine too, if you're going to be a specialist and you're going to be a, you know, an ear, nose, and throat or a whatever, that you could then learn the details of that a whole lot faster than otherwise. And so that might actually compress areas where there are shortages of doctors. And certainly, you know, in the third world, that might be, you know, an interesting way for them to increase the number of available doctors very quickly.
Yeah, this reporter actually was working on they were including tactile, so not just seeing, but being able to feel. And he wasn't wearing a glove or anything special, but the way that they've designed the virtual reality, he was like, I'm having trouble explaining it, but I can feel, you know, a hard surface or stone or whatever. And that's the crazy thing about how your brain works, I guess. So
Yeah.
you can really interpret things differently. So
Yeah, well, I will admit, you know, when the Apple phone, and I don't remember which version of it, came out with the haptic, you know, where you hit something and you actually feel it vibrate. You know, I thought that was a really good way to enhance the product. And now, you know, as a marketer, of course, is, you know, how do we turn that into something that can either grow the brand or improve the experience you have with the brand? And I think there's going to be a ton of different opportunities for marketers to take advantage of.
yeah, I think it'll be interesting too for experiential marketers, for people who do large scale events or, you know, testing of products for brands, and will it change it and enhance it? Because I'm sure they're all moving towards having some kind of virtual reality experience as part of the in-person experience. So no longer just cornhole, but it might be, you know, cornhole on the moon or,
Yeah.
you know, so it'll be interesting to see the impact. And then, you know, quite frankly, the cost. I mean, as a business owner yourself,
Mm-hmm.
finding the right partners, but then being able to price something that a client doesn't go, oh, what? It's going to cost me how much? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how things change. But
Well, one thing too, we were just at a family reunion and looking at younger kids and the level of technology and the time they spend with technology and being in Minecraft or Roblox, which, as I understand, they're going to kind of be the foundation for the metaverse. They are going to be so far ahead of us. It's going to be like, you know, my parents and the internet. My mom would never use the internet, and it took me forever to get her to even try it, and I was unsuccessful. And I hate to say it, I fear I might be the same way when it comes to the metaverse.
I have I'm proud to say that, so I grew up kind of all over the country. I'm a Californian, but moved up and down the East Coast as a kid growing up. And I spent about 8 years just outside of Boston. And some of my best friends still live up there. Most of them live up there. And when COVID hit, we would typically get together once a year, you know, maybe twice a year. And we started having a weekly Zoom call pretty much March of 20. And we have every Tuesday night, we have a call. And one of the women on the call, she's an entrepreneur, very progressive, she's like, why can't we just have flip phones? If she could not touch technology, she would be so happy. So, I bring up things like the metaverse to her, and she's just, no, not going to have it. Not so. Yes, I agree that we may also, because I kind of feel like we are different than our parents. My dad actually was an engineer and very adaptable to technology. My mom's pretty good too, so I'm lucky there. But I do feel like, I felt a little bit like there won't be that big of a gap. Like, how much more can they do? And now they can do a lot. So I'm not a gamer. So I have team members who are gamers, and I am jealous because they're gonna be like, yeah, this is this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, what? Pong.
Yeah,
I remember Pong.
I know. And asteroids, those are my games. Yeah, we're definitely going to be behind the curve on that. And actually, that's an interesting challenge, I think, for marketers is how do you get, if you have a product or a service that's ideal for, the older generations, for the maybe not necessarily the boomers, but maybe even millennials as opposed to the Gen Zs and the Gen Ys. How do you have to wait for the uptake of the new technology before you're going to be successful with, getting that metaversal kind of service implemented and really taken up by that segment.
I agree. And I also wonder the impact for PR from a publicity and media relations perspective. So as reporters get younger, will the interaction be virtual like that? So gone are the days where you would meet someone for lunch. Obviously, most of it's digital. They're inundated with thousands of pitches and calls. And so how will that change? How will they get information from, just like you're pitching a product, you do similar things in PR. And so kind of what will change, and it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if I'm going to be around that long, but things continue to adapt, and it's adapt or die, I guess, in terms of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, and I've seen it as well, even with my book, is you don't even write a press release anymore. 10 years ago, and I don't know, maybe that's too far back, I don't know, but you'd write a press release and you'd put it up on PR Web or whatever it was, and that would then get distributed. And that you don't even need to do that really anymore. It's totally different. And I could see that changing here over the next couple of years as the younger generation gets into being on the reporter side and the editor side, and they just want to be communicated with differently.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So you mentioned metrics early on, and of course, metrics and analytics are where I kind of my interest gets piqued. So tell us some of the metrics and analytics that you've found to be the most successful or the most beneficial to really help your clients to get that edge that they really needed.
Well, they never look at anything. So just providing them, just providing them with analytics, they're like, wow, really? So that is, I'll say real estate folks, lawyers, professional service people, even architects, they do not look at measurable results. It's just not in their language. So for someone to provide that, it's like I've invented sliced bread. It's crazy. Because we try to take as much of a holistic approach as we can to our clients, we will typically, even if we're not managing websites, which for most of our clients we do, but in the cases where we don't, we gain access to analytics. We make sure they have analytics on their site. Now with 4.0, things will change in terms of how things are being looked at. But, site traffic is still important, tying it to if we're doing an SEO program or some kind of online advertising or social ad program, tying certain clicks or certain web form, finishing. And email marketing is still really number one in terms of driving site traffic. So trying to stitch the threads together. So we'll tend to look at our efforts or discrete efforts that happen and then what the results are. So is it driving traffic? Was there a peak day? Was there, and ideally, are there sales tied to it? So not only did we drive traffic, but did people fill out their request a quote form or, complete a sale? And really with online ads, you really can see a massive difference. So if you're spending a little bit more money or you're spending a lot of money, there is a limit to traction. But if you're spending nothing, your results tend to flatline a little bit unless you have some really big news or you have, a great video or something goes viral. But, incrementally spending smartly to drive traffic, we think that that's important. We give them the whole picture on website, on social, email, and then anything else that may have occurred. And then the end of our analytics is always, this is where we fared well. This is where we're going to continue to work. This is what we think we should pause. So I think that clients are always happy to get just a quick synopsis and a chart of growth. Like, are you growing or are you not growing? And if they only looked at 2 slides without all the stuff in the middle, I think they would be at least have an idea of what's working and what's not working. And I think every client wants to know, from a KPI perspective, and an ROI, I guess, perspective, how their return on investment is, if they're getting one. And hopefully the smart marketing people will say you should stop spending your money here because you're getting nowhere. But we think you should still funnel that money elsewhere because you are getting results here. So
yeah, absolutely. One of the challenges that we've run into is, for larger businesses, they have the money to invest in metrics. And so they can either buy data or get survey data or buy third-party data. And then, of course, their own internal systems give them, the sales and other things.
Right.
The challenge is, though, for smaller businesses, and one of the things, and I kind of heard that as well, is you just have to start measuring something and measuring it regularly. And you'll start to see some things that take place. You might see a peak in web visits or web engagement or form fills or something like that. And then once you start to see that, then you can say, well, that's when we ran this little campaign, or that's when we went to the trade show, or that's when we did something, and start to tie those things to real value. So I think what you're doing makes total sense. And I think the biggest thing is to just start. And I try and get that message across in my book, is just start measuring something, and then, see what you get, and then refine it. But you have to start and be diligent about it.
Right. It's just like when people used to come to us back in the day for printed newsletters. I'm like, you can't do 2. You have to do them every month because you're just, it's with anything really in marketing, right? It's frequency. And so analytics are the same. And it's really interesting. I think over 30 years, we'll get clients who are like, analytics. By month 3, they're like, are we getting our analytics report? I'm like, yep, we're working on it.
Yep.
So they really do start to pay attention. The smart ones, I would say, that really have the time, maybe are a little more sales focused. They're making an investment. And so like anything, they want to see what that return is. And they really will start to pay attention. And they're kind of amazed, like I said. And to your point, if they haven't started, just starting it, they're kind of like, wow, you can see that? You can drill down and see that? And I'm like, oh, there's so much more we're not showing because we don't think you're going to look at it. But if you want to see it, we'll pull it for you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and just get started. That is such a for metrics. That is just so important. So, changing the subject a little bit. So, what do you see as otherwise big trends in PR and in marketing? We talked a little bit about the metaverse and whatever, but any other big trends that you're seeing?
We're doing a couple of projects right now that require community engagement. And at least in Georgia, for projects that we have here and really everywhere, the diversity of the population is really driving some different initiatives. We are working, for example, on a video. And if you've taken a Delta flight recently and you've seen their promotion, their in-flight video before you can take
Mm-hmm.
off, there's English and Spanish subtitles. And I think as the population continues to be more diverse and languages will become more important, that will have an impact on how websites are developed, on materials that are provided, on outreach that happens. And honestly, I think I'm hopeful that as kids come up in school, that there is more of an emphasis on learning more than English as a language. I mean, you look across the world and Italians probably know on average 3 to 5 languages, or,
Mm,
people in Spain. And so the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think trends that will continue to occur is people have to be thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion all the time now. It's not,
mm,
um, people don't look like us anymore. It's important to be diverse and get outside of your own bubble. Some of these projects are heavily community engagement focused. And so there has to be someone who might be able to interpret into Korean, Vietnamese, Spanish, other languages on site so that the community can really engage. So for one of our clients, when we started, you were talking about CIDs, and people may not know what that is. They are community improvement districts.
mm,
They are designated areas where property owners pay additional tax, and that tax goes into a bucket that's used for infrastructure updates, security, landscaping, beautification, cleanup. And it's a little bit of the broken windows
mm,
theory that if things look great, you're going to attract more investment, more businesses, more residents, et cetera. And all that means is more taxes come into that county. And so it's win-win. But the diversity of these CIDs is vastly changing. And so one of the ones that we work with is probably one of the most diverse districts where I think Hispanic and African American are by far the
mm.
majority of the population, and so making sure that we are communicating in a way that they can understand without being forced to read English and understand what could be complex is key, and I think that will continue to be a trend that we see going forward. So making sure that people are keeping that in mind from a marketing perspective, I think will be really important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm on the board of the AMA, the American Marketing Association here in Atlanta, and
I am a former president.
you are a former president, exactly. So,
A long
but
time ago.
over the last 2 years, we have set it really as an objective to make sure that we are as diverse and inclusionary
Inclusive.
as we can be, because it is so important. And to your, you use the words, they don't necessarily look like us, and or look like me, and that every piece of research that I've seen is so true. And so being able to make that inclusion in all of our events is long term, even in the short term, is going to help the organization out, and I think help out marketers that follow that and companies that follow that. So yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, just hearing someone else's opinion that again may not look like us is really really important. I'm going through a leadership program right now through CREW, which is Commercial Real Estate for Women, and it is a very diverse mix of women in the class. And so there was the topic, we had a topic about DE&I essentially, and there were a lot of some trepidations, I would say, from other members of the class saying, I don't know what I can ask, what I can't ask, I don't want to mess up. And, I think, and I'm Jewish, and so I get asked questions like that, like, really? Yes. The goal is to be a friend first, like get to know the person and not treat them as if they're on display, if that makes sense. Like, ooh, you're my first Black friend, so I'm going to ask you all my questions. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Not how it works. So making sure that you are diverse is great, but at the same time, it's the equity and the inclusion part that I think are important as well, so that people are on a level playing field and they are given the same opportunities, and that those inclusionary conversations are happening and not necessarily you're the token, so I'm going to ask you because you're clearly representative of your entire population.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not a good thing.
That is not a good thing. I like your point though. The friend and the relationship is you have to establish first, and that has to be kind of at the top of the list, and
Yes.
that then will lead to the other the other bullets that need to be followed on that. Yeah, good point. Any other big trends that you see?
Oh gosh. Well, what are you seeing? I'm going to turn it around. You've talked way more people on these podcasts. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, definitely, it was good that we talked about the metaverse because that's certainly it. And definitely DEI, so that was good. What I've found, which is, I think, surprises everybody, is that there has been a huge shift over to digital and online. So whatever that is, whether it's, paid digital, paid social, paid search, or online video, that trend has definitely moved and is being very successful there, and money is being taken out of traditional media. And
Oh,
what's happened now with a lot of our clients is that the traditional media has now become very effective because the prices have come down, the targeting is better, or maybe not better, but the targeting is there, and the reach is there. And so we actually see that there's almost like a rebalancing going on where everything was kind of moving over to online, and now there's a little piece that's moving back again. And so that's definitely one of the trends that we've seen.
yeah, that's it's really interesting. We video, video, video. It is really, the no one reads anymore. It's really sad. I mean, especially because I'm a storyteller and a writer, and no one reads. And it's really kind of crazy, the statistics that you see on how much video is consumed versus, someone reading a book or even a blog post. It's important to have, obviously, from a technical perspective, having your keywords searchable, very important. But I think video will continue to change the game, both on the internet, social media. TikTok has had
Yep.
a massive impact. And so what is consumable, I think to your point earlier about different age ranges, people can spend 3 to 6 hours on TikTok just scrolling through videos, but the retention level is what I don't know.
Yeah.
So are they retaining? Are they actually going through and shopping and spending money and doing those things? But video is no longer something you can avoid. You have to have it as part, certainly as part of your social media, just because algorithmically it's rewarded.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you're kind of left in the dust. I was just on a call about a nonprofit. They're focused on raising funds for Ukraine, for sending medical supplies, incubators, kind of large, expensive items. And someone said, I have some audio PSAs. Can you use those on social? And I said, no, I can't. I need the video. So no one's going to sit and listen to a post. It's just, no,
Yeah.
that's not going to
Yeah.
happen. So
Yeah.
I'm not NPR, I, and it's not a podcast. She was like, it's a 30-second PSA. No, I need the video. So, which we'll get, which is good. But yeah, it's definitely here to stay. And I was at Digital Summit. Were you at the Digital Summit a couple weeks ago?
Oh, no, no, no. Yes, I was. I was. Yes.
There
Yeah.
was a woman on there talking about making videos that are engaging and
Right.
driving
Right.
business, and she made some really great points. But she also, like, I kind of grew up liking my privacy, and I'm not the type of person that films myself putting my makeup on before I give a speech, and people like that. Like, people
Mm-hmm.
like to
Yep.
watch that. And ugh, like, I can't think of a worse thing, but that's me. So, they're, for the people that can embrace that kind of thing and are comfortable with that kind of thing, they're doing really well. But there's certain things that personally, I might recommend it for a client, but personally, I would have problems with. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you are so right about video and these short snippets, and I can't believe how well TikTok does. A friend of mine, he's does leadership videos on TikTok, so they're about anywhere from 50, 60 seconds up to maybe a minute and a half. And most of his are in the 1,000 views range, and then about 2 weeks ago he had one that shot up to 500,000.
oh my
And
God,
I
that's
know,
amazing.
absolutely amazing. And so now, because of that, you get spin off on all the other ones, and then it's kind of this virtuous cycle. And but to your point, though, you have to almost, and I call it surround sound marketing. You have to be almost everywhere. Unfortunately, you do have to have audios because people do listen to audios and things like that when they're driving or whatever. And then obviously the
Absolutely.
videos and even these podcasts are a big opportunity, and then the TikToks, and then you talked about search as well. I made a mistake with my podcasts. I started on YouTube, and then I don't know why we felt was going to be better over in Vimeo, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, we're not getting the search, and the search engine on YouTube is so important that we are now moving everything back over to YouTube because you get all that value of the
Well, to
search
your
that's there.
point, you could be on both.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no harm in being on both. So,
yep,
um, yeah, but the search volume on YouTube is only second to Google.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's really kind of amazing and crazy. So, yeah,
yep,
that I would say is
yeah.
an
So
important and ongoing trend.
before we close, anything else you want to bring up, or anything we haven't spoken about that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I don't think so two things I think I would change in terms of uh, me and my, success over 30 years is I'm not a morning person, and I truly believe that the early bird catches the worm. So, like, if only I was a morning person, I'd be a billionaire. But I also am I'm a detail person and less of a visionary, but I will say I'm kind of the slow and steady wins the race type
Mm,
entrepreneur. I'm a risk averse entrepreneur. Um, and I when people say two things to me, I always kind of cringe, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea.
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
Clients who have asked for 5 year plans, I'm like, why bother? It's going to be different 6 months from now, you know? So I feel a little vindicated that we live in a time that things change so much that I can say we're not doing a 5 year plan. But so I wish I had been a little bit more of a visionary, I guess. But I am proud to say that I've been around for 30 years. So that
That's
I didn't ever forecast. Like, I'll do this for a few years, see how it goes. So it goes by fast. Like, I don't have children. I have fur babies, but they grow up fast, and
Mhm.
I have loved. But some days are really slow. But for the most part, the 30 years have gone like that. So
Yeah, it is amazing.
really,
It is absolutely amazing. I've been doing this for 17, and
a
it's
baby.
I know. I'm just a youngster in this. Well, thank you so much, Sharon. Really appreciate it, and thank you so much for the time and very interesting discussion. Where would you like people to go for them to reach you or your company, and
Yeah,
maybe give your website?
you can go right to our website, which is c21pr.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Sharon Goldmacher, easy to find. And you can connect with us on social, on all the socials. Yeah, we have some videos on our website as well. You can see some of our video work, and that would be great. I would love to connect with your audience. It would be awesome.
Fantastic. So c21pr.com. And
Yep.
then, of course, Sharon Goldmacher on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So, with that, again, thank you so much, Sharon. And then for the audience, please stay tuned for other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing. Please visit marketingmachine.prorelevant.com, and you can download any of these videos and also podcasts. And don't forget to sign up for more of these. And then if you get a chance, please rate them with 5 stars. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Guy. Have a good afternoon.